Welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek. So my dog is eating, and I just wanted to start. So you might hear some little munching going on in the background for a while. Hopefully he'll stop. But Angel and Aries, they're my companions out here in my garage. So I'm holding these two books up because I am going to talk about these, but I'm not going to do it until the end because I have a bunch of things to say. So if you are interested in comics and comic art, then please either stick around or fast forward to the end and watch this because I'm going to review these two books by Tom King. All right, let's get started. So I want to talk about the weather. So I was talking about how rainy and windy it was last week. And after that, of course, the sky here was stunningly gorgeous. As soon as it stopped raining, all the wind had pushed the muck in the air away. And unfortunately, it lasted 1 or 2 days. Because as I drove home today, the skies were mucky again. So I'm going to show you an example. Now, as I was driving home, I stopped and took that picture. I just had to stop. And actually, other people were stopping too. There were people getting out of their cars. I came over a hill and I saw that. And I'm telling you, it's always there, but we can't see it. Because I looked today and they're there, but it's all mucky. And it looks like Colorado or something. No, this is Los Angeles. Right? And so that was one. So here's another. I actually drive down this street and I turn over here to go toward my house. But for some of you, this is normal. Like you see something like this all the time. Not here. This is usually all brown, and you could see this in the background, but it's so brown and like hazed out, we hardly even know it's there. But wow, for 2 days we had this stunning, gorgeous view. It really was stunning. And then I went to get some gas, and you can know how strong the winds were, right? That blew all that muck away. Because on the main street, right around the corner, like 2 blocks from my house, this is 54, and I live on 56. This huge tree was down in the main road, and it was, blocking it. It's actually a really large tree. I don't know, like this is the whole intersection, and we had to actually go around into the other side of traffic's lane to go around this tree. There was actually a police person there, like guiding traffic. I actually turned before, and I was going to get gas, and I turned. If I hadn't gone to get gas, I wouldn't have seen this, but that's how strong the wind was. So, hey, I started off with weather again. It, like I said, it was so gorgeous to see this, and it only lasted a day or two. And I really, really would like to drive up in the mountains right now, but as of probably still not closed, but there were a lot of freeways closed around here due to the rain. They're probably open now. And then as when you go further away from LA, like there were a lot of places leading up into the mountains and like on the road to Yosemite and all that kind of stuff. They were just all closed down because of all the flooding. Okay, so I did not watch any movies this week. I watched a couple shows, and so I basically, when you watch a show, it's like watching 10 movies. So, and also, I had parent conference this week, and that just like ruins an entire day. You can't get anything done. So, at the school I'm at now, parent conference lasts 3 hours. And I didn't know that when I started the school, and I was just like, what? 2 hours is bad enough, right? You're exhausted by the end. And at this school, it's 3 hours. And I'm like, why do they want to torture us poor teachers? 3 hours. So I had to stay. Like normally it's from 5 to 7, right? And so I usually leave for school around 7 in the morning. We start like 8:30, but I'm at school at 8. So I had to leave at 7. So that's a good 11 hour day minimum that day, right? And I know some people work long hours. But when you're not used to it, it's kind of like a long, exhausting day. So I was just like 3 hours for parent conferences. Ugh. But anyways, got through it. So I watched basically 2 shows and I didn't finish either one of them. So I'm going to talk about them. The first one I watched was the latest season or the last season of The Walking Dead. Now there are 24 episodes in the final season and I watched 17. I mean, that's like, a good minimum 15 hours of television this week. So I'm not going to do any spoilers, right? So if you haven't seen either of the shows that I'm going to talk about, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to give my impressions, right? So many people, as I've mentioned before, they have dropped off The Walking Dead, and so they're not watching it. So would I say that this is necessary viewing? Like, is this a season that would, bring viewers back? No, it's not. However, I am thoroughly enjoying it. I like the characters. The situations are okay. I'm along for the ride. It's certainly not boring. There have been a couple of slow parts. The enemy is kind of lackluster in this, but I'm not done with it yet. So I'll tell you next week what I think finally. But I'm definitely enjoying it, and I'm definitely glad that I'm watching it. And I just feel sad for anybody who really liked the show before and didn't stick through it. I just think the characters are worth it. And, it's, in my opinion, I think it's still a worthy show. So the next show that I started watching is Cabinet of Curiosities. Now, this is a Netflix anthology horror series with Guillermo del Toro being like the curator or like the overall producer. He introduces each episode, but other people direct the episodes. So far, I've watched 4 of them, and there are 8, so I'm halfway through. So I'm just going to basically tell you what they're about, but I'm not going to spoil it. Okay, so don't worry about that. And I'm going to kind of rate them. So I've only seen 4 of the 8. So the first one takes place in a storage unit. So it's an old kind of storage unit with kind of these windy aisles. And it was pretty creepy, well done. It's got an interesting ending to it. It's kind of Lovecraftian in many ways. But so far, the first episode was my least favorite. So I'm going to give that one a 4. 4 being the lowest and 1 being the best. The second episode was called Rats in the Graveyard or something like that. So the whole setup was very interesting. It's anytime there's like a ton of rats like running all over the place, that's just gross in itself, and I'm interested in watching it. So that bumped it up. Just for me personally, I think watching rats running all over people and biting people and like doing all kinds of other things like in like a horde of rats, that's just creepy and scary to me and gross. So this one had like a gross factor, and it was just an okay episode, but it gets pumped up because of the disgustingness of all the rats. So that's gonna get the 3. So it's the third favorite. The third one stars F. Murray Abraham as a person who does an autopsy. So I guess I should say a coroner. So he's a coroner and he's performing an autopsy. Now this one had a lot of setup that I don't think was necessary. So like I think this could have been cut by like 20 minutes, but it's a 45-minute to an hour long show. So I get it. But once F. Murray Abraham starts the autopsy, this thing is crazy. And it went in really interesting places. So this was my favorite. So I'm going to give this one the number 1 spot. So if you only watch one of the first 4 episodes, watch Autopsy. Loved it. It was creepy. It was well written. It had some really cool ideas. It's what an anthology show should be about, right? And it had a really great actor in it, right? So F. Murray Abraham, I believe he won the Academy Award for Amadeus, I think. I can't remember. And then the fourth one was I think it might have been called Aloe Glow. It's about a lotion, and it's also about consumerism and the way people in society who aren't pretty, how like society makes them feel. Um, this one could almost be the number one. This one was creepy for different reasons. Now, this is not like a consistently spooky, scary kind of thing. It's takes place in bright atmospheres, and it's more about like oppression to people who aren't considered beautiful and the kind of suffering that they go through. But it does take a really weird turn. Like the second half of this thing just gets weird. And then the last scene of this is kind of very uncomfortable to watch. It's if you've ever seen a Fellini movie, I think it's Fellini, where Fellini makes like people stare at you like this. They're like, wait, where's the camera on my phone? They like, wait, am I looking into your eyes? They like look at you for like a minute and they just kind of stare at you. Sorry, where's the like? Where am I? Okay, so that's what we had to go through. But as the character is like staring at us, she's like having this mental breakdown. She's acting while her face is like right in the camera, and it was actually really well done. I think this kind of out Fellini'd Fellini. I don't know. I can't put it as number one because of the nature of the show. But it was a horror story in just a different vein. It's like consumer horror, if that's like a term. I don't know. I recommend it. Okay, so it's my number two, but if you're the right if you're the right type of person, this could be better than the other one I told you about. Okay, so I recommend, just for the weird factor, the fourth one about the lotion, and the third one about the autopsy. So I am really looking forward to the next 4 episodes. I'm enjoying this show. Is it as good as Black Mirror? Nope, but it's very good. I'm definitely enjoying it. All right. I read 2 books, or more like I listened to 2 books this week. I read comics, which I'm going to talk about later. So let me go ahead and show you them. The first one that I listened to was the second book in the Douglas Adams series, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this one is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. And so I went into the series, as I said before, like knowing that I wouldn't like this, and I'm just basically forcing myself to listen to these. Why? Because they're cultural icons. It's like there's so many references to these books. It's just like, I need to just do it. And I did not enjoy the first one very much, but I have to say that I kind of didn't hate this one. I'm starting to like it. I don't know. There were parts of this that was very interesting sci-fi, and I kind of was getting into it. Maybe there weren't as many stupid jokes in this book. So for example, I'll give you an example. Not only is there time travel, they go to a restaurant at the end of the universe. So, I mean, that's the title of the book, so it's not giving anything away. But they travel through time, and there's this one part where they land on this, I forget how, but they get on this planet that's been decimated, and there's nobody there. And they find it like a spacecraft. And when they go onto the spacecraft, there's a robotic stewardess. And all the passengers are strapped in, but they have really long hair and really long fingernails. And the robot wakes them up every 100 years to give them their snacks and refreshment. But they're waiting to take off. and the robot won't let them up. They're like strapped in, and then she sedates them again. But when they wake up, they all start screaming, because they want to get off the plane. But the plane is never going to take off because they're waiting for the okay. But the whole planet was just. I don't know why I thought that was really sick, but so funny. I don't know why I thought that was funny. So he got me with that one. I was just like, that's twisted and funny. So, hey, I enjoyed something about that book, and it was only a small part, but overall, the book wasn't horrible. So maybe I'm kind of warming up to it. I don't know. I still have 4 more to read after that. So the next thing that I read was another book by Annie Ernaux. So, you guys stop. I'm on camera right now. So Annie, and I've heard it pronounced Ernaux because you have to say it with a French accent. Well, I'd say Annie Ernaux. So Annie Ernaux, she won the Nobel Prize. Now, this one was called "I Remain in Darkness," and I said before, like I've read. This is her 5th one, right? Her 5th book that I've read or listened to. And this one, again, is about her mother. Now, the other one I read, listened to about her mother was called A Woman's Story, I believe it was called. And it was my favorite of hers. And this one is also about her mother, but it's about a very specific period of time when her mother was in like geriatric care. Is that what it's called? Hospice care. And, she's slowly losing her mental facilities and, about the time when she dies. And so at the beginning, just like she normally does, she explains what she's going to do with her style. So she said that she did not want to expand this or do anything like that. She had her journals, she had what she wrote, and she just wanted to present it in its like rawness. And this book is enjoyable in the sense that it is kind of heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. Because she's really dealing with the emotions of her mom, and she writes down honestly everything that her mom's going through as she, loses her faculties. And it's just a really heartbreaking book. So this is not going to be for everyone because this is a tough listen, even though it's short. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to give you an example. So one of the most touching things in the book is she's like really frustrated with her mom. Like, her mom's, going through everything and just like, it's really hard to deal with. And she's very honest about her emotions, but she bends down to tie her mom's shoelace, and her mom bends over and kisses her on top of the head. And for her, it was like she wrote like it was a devastating kiss because there was just so much love in that kiss. And like she didn't even want to sit back up because she was just so emotionally distraught over this. And it's such a simple little scene, but the way she wrote about it and the way she presented it was just it was just amazing. So just for a scene like that, I can understand why she won the Nobel Prize, because I think that scene, the way she wrote it, is going to stick with me for a long time. It's very good. So now let's talk about overall. So I've read 5 books, and I was discussing this with my friend in Iowa. It feels to me like all of these books, they're so short, and they're all memoirs so far. They all feel like different chapters of the same book. So a lot of them I've listened to are 1 hour, and many of them are 2 hours. So when you think about that, 5 of them so far, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 hours, that's not even the length of a book, right? So to me, they really do feel like chapters that could be slotted into an overall memoir. My friend said, yeah, they're probably just gonna, put them all together in one big volume later. And that makes sense. Now, I don't think all of her books are like that. I know she has one book at least that's 4 hours, and it's more of a history. And so I'm looking forward to getting that. I have 3 more of her books on loan that I'm going to try to get to this week. So I will be commenting more on those. And then I hope to keep going with as many as I can that are in the library. Like I said, after she won the Nobel Prize, a lot of her books started being made into audiobooks and becoming available. And so I was very happy about that. And another reason that I'm enjoying this so much is because they're so short. I feel like I'm making a lot of progress because they're so short, and I could read 1, 2, or 3 of these a week and talk about them. So I highly recommend that book. So of all the books, her most famous one was The Happening. That's the one that was all over the news, or when she won. That's the one they talked about the most, and that was the one about her talking about her illegal abortion in France. And to be honest with you, it wasn't the one I enjoyed most. It's probably the most important one, but I prefer these family portraits, especially a lot of them talk about the class struggles and the class differences, especially generational differences among the classes, because she moved out of her mother's class in society because of the jobs, and their mother and father kind of moved out, but they kept their ideas, and they had their they still had their feet in the lower class, but they were able to move up. But because she was born in that middle class, she actually kept going up because she was able to go to college and everything. And so there's not only is there a class difference, there's a generational class difference. And the way that it's dealt with in these memoirs, I think, are probably some of the more interesting aspects of these books. All right. So that was... I'm almost done. I got 2 more things to talk about. Okay, the second to last of the penultimate, I watched 2 episodes of John Oliver, and he always does like a 15 to 20 minute like chat about some topic. Let me go ahead and turn off my iPad. I got this like strobe light on my face. So in his 2 most recent episodes, he talked about psychedelic assisted therapy. So basically that's using psychedelic drugs to help overcome things like alcoholism or drug abuse, those kind of things. And it was a really interesting... I'd never heard this before, but when these psychedelic drugs are administered to patients with people there to assist and to help the patients through, many of the patients claim that they are life-altering experiences that help them. They help them kick addiction, and the United States got away from these because there was this mad wave of psychedelic drug fear, where everybody, like, the backlash was so intense that the government came in and Congress started, regulating. But they're not saying that these drugs should be used for recreational use. They're saying that they need to be administered in a healthcare setting, but they do so much good. And John Oliver was saying, like, we went through this before. Like, we saw the benefits of it, but then there was this social backlash, which stopped all progress of these drugs for decades. And now they're starting to do research and trials again under these contained circumstances, and they're seeing very many positive results. Even when people have so-called bad trips, they still get benefits from it because there are trained professionals there to help them through that. But he's just worried that, this stigma might come back again because if it's used recreationally, and then, people get hurt or die from bad trips, that there could be a backlash when these therapies really do help a lot of people in those situations. So that was a kind of eye-opening thing to me, because I never really knew that. Then another one that he talked about was about AI. And specifically, there's two things I'm going to talk about. One was Chat GPT, which is something I mentioned a few weeks ago, because this is affecting education a lot. So uh, online writing programs can mimic real writing, and high school kids and college kids can take advantage of it. They can type in what they want, and the chat GPT will spit out a paper, and for all intents and purposes, it looks just like an original paper that a human would write. Like, the technology has advanced so much that where we go in education is, I think, going to be an important question in the near future. But that wasn't the focus of this chat. My other dog is eating now, so you can hear that. Sorry. But what they were talking about, what he was talking about, John Oliver, was that when we allow AI to basically do a job, how do I say this? So basically, there was this, I think it was Google. They put out like a chat, and it was basically like an Alexa or something. So online, they would start responding to people, and they would use all the data that was available to write responses. And within like a day or two, it became racist, and it started insulting people, and just being rude and negative. But the thing was, it was learning from all the online stuff, and so it like, seriously, it became like racist and like horrible. And basically, what's happening is AI, any artificial intelligence, is going to be biased because it's going to reflect the culture. And so whatever is out there, it's getting all its data from whatever's out there, and all of the most of the mainstream data is biased, and in many sense racist and rude, and all of these biases are being transferred, and that's really dangerous. Because one of the people on there said that there was she called it the pale male, a blinder, because basically anybody who's not like a white male is going to be marginalized by AI. And I just thought, that is so crazy, right? We're building this next level platform that is supposed to be better than us, and it's actually going to be even worse. And that evidence is already there. Okay, you had your food, now you're jumping up here. All right. So I just thought that was really interesting and eye-opening. And all of this AI, I think, all this AI stuff. Okay, my dog is trying to get on my lap. Okay, come here, Aries. Come on. So it's that time. As soon as my dog kind of settles down, come on, baby, lay down. So now I'm going to talk about the comics that I read this week. So I am on a Tom King kick, and it's going to be this weekend, continued into next week. So I just wanted to show that last week I read this and I reviewed it. Batman, Catwoman, and I generally really liked it. I had some problems with it, and some of the problem was the art. Now, the art, again, is not bad. It's actually very nice. But I kind of thought about it, and the reason I really don't like this Jim Lee style of art is the over sexualized positions that, like, for example, in this book, Catwoman, like when she's sitting there and her back is all arched and her butt's out, I'm just like, of course sheroes would have stunning bodies, right? They would have stunning bodies, but it just seems like, she's sitting there arched, like, what? Like, I guess she's supposed to be like a cat, but is her butt gonna be out like she's ready to be pet there? I don't know. So that kind of thing, I guess, kind of bothers me. And maybe it's it's a holdover from the 90s art. I don't know. So somebody, if you want to comment about that, go ahead. So like I said, beautiful art. Maybe I just don't like that over sexualized art. And I just also want to stop because I forgot to mention I have these over here. So hey, this is what I listened to this week. So I listened to Murray Head, and this is an album called Say It And So, and I like this. These are, again, these album replicas, and it comes with its OB, which I love, and oh, that's just, this one's in my CD player, so this is just the album thing. And this one is a gatefold. It's so cool. Now, Murray Head, I don't think ever made it big in the United States, except for One Night in Bangkok, right, from the musical Chess, which, by the way, I love that musical. But this album is very good, and this title track is really good, Say It Ain't So. I think Roger Daltrey covered a couple of his songs, or maybe vice versa. I'm not sure. But anyways, Murray Head, this is a really, really good album. And then another one that I listened to from the same company is Moon Martin. And this is like power pop. And this is a really, really good album too. I enjoy it. So I've had this one for I've actually had both of these for a long time. And since I'm on this kick, I pulled them out and I've been listening to them this week. In addition to that, I've been listening to a lot of Danish pop. The reason for that is this is Music challenged me and I challenged him. So his video is already up. I'm going to do mine tomorrow. But I would listen to his playlist and then I would just be sitting here and then it would continue on to other. And I really like that. And I'm going to talk about that more in the video that I make for tomorrow. So look forward to that. Okay, back to Tom King. So blah, 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 blah. There we go. So I talked about Batman, Catwoman last week. And so next week, I'm going to talk about the 5 volumes of Batman that he wrote. Now, I have them on the shelf. I didn't want to pull them out. I am going to go over them next week, but I've read 3 of the 5. So I didn't get to the part where everyone was starting to get like so against him because the first 3 I thought were really, really good. So let's see what happens in the next 2 volumes. I'm going to actually reread the first 3 volumes. I'm going to try, and then I'm going to go over the next 2. And I'm going to talk about that in next week's video. So In the Past by Tom King, I've read The Vision. And this is a great miniseries put out by Marvel Comics. So Tom King at Marvel Comics. And then I've also read Mr. Miracle. And this was an Eisner Award-winning Best Writer, Best Artist. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing. Okay, not worth all the hype. Now, some of the reason that I'm going to mention this is because I'm going to refer to it in the 2 that I read for today. So I first read Rorschach. Now, Rorschach is, of course, from The Walking Dead. Watchmen. Okay, so he's a character from Watchmen, which is one of the most adored and hyped graphic novels ever, or set of comics that was made into a graphic art novel, and deservedly so. Okay, and so anytime anybody tinkers with that, people get upset. Now, they did make an HBO show, which I thought was really good, and I hope, was there 2 seasons or 1? I hope there's another season coming, but I don't know. It seems like it's stalled. That was such a great show. And I'm going to say that I have my problems with this, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it. Now, it is kind of in the style of Watchmen. I think Tom King tried to do that, and I think he was successful with that. It's got really, really interesting art. I loved the art. So I'm going to give you an example, like right there on the back. So when you first look at this panel, for example, this is the first time. So I just have to give a little spoiler. There's a bunch of characters in here who become Rorschachs. It's kind of like the show in that way. It's like how do people become Rorschachs? Like, how do they have it, and like how do they become, and who is Rorschach, and what is this identity? So anyways, this is the first time this character is becoming Rorschach. And how do they introduce him? He's introduced, like, the first thing you see is this ink blot. It's basically shadow on the wall, right? But the first time you see him, it's like seeing a Rorschach. And then you notice that there they are, the characters that are shining the shadows. The shadows, it's there, but your eye doesn't see that. It sees that, and I just thought that was really clever. Right? So the first time we actually see this person dressed as a Rorschach is as a Rorschach. So I mean, that to me, that was clever art. So I'm gonna just show you a little bit of the art, give you some examples. So like here is a splash page. I mean, I think that's really cool. And then there's an example of one of the covers from the comic. Let me show the next page. Here's another cover, and of course that represents oh god, I can't remember the big blue guy. The guy who goes to Mars. Who is that? Oh, I'm gonna kick myself later. Okay, the big blue guy who goes to Mars, and the all-powerful, he's like God. And then I wanna point out this, because this actually made me pause, right? So if you know comics at all, so that is Amazing Spider-Man. The introduction of Amazing Spider-Man, which was Astonishing Tales 15. Everybody's going to be mad at me. Like, I should know that. But anyways, the first appearance of Spider-Man, and that's the pose he's in. Now, the original Watchmen had pirates, and notice it's even called Astonishing Suspense. So and it's number 15, I think. So I thought it was an homage to Spider-Man, but it's actually more. So, no pun intended. So I learned later, like, so this character is named Frank Miller, and it's actually the artist Frank Miller who did The Dark Knight Returns, like one of the most lauded comics ever. But he does some weird things to him here, and I thought, I wonder, does Frank Miller know? Like, he uses his name, and he does these horrible things to him, and it's by the same company. So I just thought, this is weird. And so later, I didn't realize there's another artist in here, and he's supposed to be Steve Ditko. And Steve Ditko is the artist, the original artist of Spider-Man. So I didn't know that he was actually like lampooning them or putting them down in some way, because they both become like murderous Rorschach people. And so I don't think he was trying to be nice to them. And I didn't realize that about this character. Because he's got a role to play, and he's consistent, and he's part of the backdrop of what's going on throughout the book. But the way this character is treated and killed, I thought, oh, this is weird. And so I looked online later, and he's being criticized. Number one, I guess Tom King has a really big ego. He says like he's like the greatest comic book writer that's ever lived, and like he has feuds with these artists. I don't know exactly, but I'm just saying it was really weird to put that into comic form, especially when, okay, so Frank Miller has made a lot of comics recently that aren't that good, or like, okay, so he's not as good as he used to be, basically. And then this artist is, like putting him down. Maybe they had run-ins and they were rude to each other. I don't know. So, but he like skewers him in this comic, and I was just like, ugh. Maybe he had run-ins with Steve Ditko as well. So, what am I going to say about this? I did enjoy this. It took me a long time to read, actually, and that kind of reminds me of Watchmen. It actually takes a long time to read Watchmen, mostly because there's a lot of text. It's text heavy. And then there are actual pieces of text. Like there's actually short stories in the middle of it that you have to read. And this one wasn't as, like that. There weren't these like huge chunks of text, but there was certainly a lot of text, and I don't mind that. But I just remember thinking, wow, it's taking me like a really long time to read this. And I did enjoy it. The ideas were interesting. Was it perfectly executed? No. I enjoyed it. I'm going to say that this involves a kind of mystery that is very, very intriguing at the beginning. And just like most mysteries for me, I have a problem with many mysteries because you have fun along the way, but once you figure out what they are, you could just kind of lose interest, right? The reveal is never as good as the buildup. And that happened in this instance. But I think it's really hard for a writer to overcome that. And I still think that this is a very, very good comic. I would probably say it's like an 8 out of 10. It's worth reading. It's not going to be the best thing you ever read. Okay. And now we come to Strange Adventures. So this is about an old comic book character called Adam Strange. And I didn't know too much about him, right? But basically, he's of two worlds. He's a hero. He's from Earth, but he's a hero of this planet, Ran. And as you can see from the cover, he's being called a war criminal in this. And the whole thing is about the dual nature. It's all this. So I'm going to show you, for example, each comic that was published came out with 2 covers to, show you the dual nature of this comic. So here is one comic cover, right? And then this is the same cover that came out, right? And so it's the same cover, but this one is all graffitied over. And I think they had a third one where they showed them both together, right? And so it was to emphasize the dual nature of this. And the comic, kind of like Batman Catwoman, takes place in different worlds and different times, and the color scheme represents that. So I'm gonna show you an example. Oh, I had a bookmark in there, and then it fell out. So I want to show you. Oh, so for example, this. You can clearly see the different color schemes happening for the different times or locations or whatnot. Let me show you some more. The best thing about this is the art. The art in here is stunning. It is so good. Now here's the splash page for this book. Like, I don't know if you can even see all the detail. There's like this over here. There's a giant, like a dinosaur. Like, it's just really, and then there's 2 people. The art in here is very, very good. Here's another example. I'm assuming that's Brainiac, and there's Superman and Adam Strange going to fight him. So yeah, the art in here is just gorgeous. I did have some problems with it. It seems like there was quite a bit of filler in this one. And it reminded me so much of this one. So this is about basically a couple struggling with how society sees them. And they're going back and forth between two worlds. And this was kind of the same thing in many aspects, although this one gets deeper. And because, it's about, did this guy commit war crimes? But there were some interesting subtexts because they bring in Mr. Terrific, who is an African-American hero. And so it starts to become about, in some ways, like how society, picks its heroes. And, like, is someone like this ever going to be as praised as someone like this? And then would someone, like, he is called in to investigate him, and if he were to find anything, would people even believe it just because of the color of his skin versus, he's a poster boy for heroism. I thought that was a really interesting kind of twist in this. And then Adam Strange's wife has a very strong role in this book. I think more so than this one. And I thought that was also interesting. Come to think of it, Catwoman had a much stronger role in Batman Catwoman. It was basically a Catwoman story, as I said before. So this is, as a story, I would say about a 6, but the art is stunning. I would say the art is a 9. This is worth it just for the art alone. There's so many so if you could look at it, there's different styles of art on one page to reflect what is going on, and it's consistent. So if we're talking about this time, it's going to be this art style, and I think there are 2 different artists, and they pull it off so well. So that one is definitely recommended. Okay. So here we go. Some Tom King. Talked about Tom King, and you're going to get more Tom King next week with Batman. The Batman run that is pretty much infamous now. All right, if you stuck around this long, thank you so much. Look these up on Spotify. Give them a listen. I think they're worthy, especially if you've never heard them before. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I've got a video coming out tomorrow. Danish pop for This Is Music. Please look forward to that. And I hope everybody you all have a great weekend.